Disneyland Paris is one of the most magical places you can visit, but is it plus size friendly? If you are plus size, or poo size as they say at Disney, then visiting theme parks can cause a bit of anxiety, particularly if you're used to visiting UK theme parks, where some of them are notoriously not very accommodating for plus size people. So today I'm going to give you a rundown of my experience as a plus size person in Disneyland Paris, if the rides are plus size friendly, what type of harnesses they have, and any issues you may encounter, including one unexpected barrier that I found. My name is Sophie from Most Magical Guides, and I make videos all about planning trips to Disneyland Paris and Walt Disney World. If you are returning, then thank you very much. And if it's your first time, then welcome. If you do enjoy that type of content, make sure you smash that subscribe button down below. So just for reference, I am 5'3½". The half is a very important thing to note. And I am a UK size 20, so I'm kind of short and stout like a teapot. So I'm going to give you a rundown of the things I experienced whilst at Disneyland Paris, and it is worth noting that because I'm very short, some things that would impact very tall people didn't impact me, but I will try and highlight things that I'm aware of that can be issues for taller people. So let's dive in to see how plus size friendly Disneyland Paris really is. So in the past 9 months, I've visited Disneyland Paris 3 times, and I am super happy to report that I had no issues whatsoever. Every single ride I was able to go on. I should note that there are some rides I don't go on because I get motion sickness, but I have previously been on them in the past when I didn't get motion sickness, and I was also fine on them. So today I'm going to run down the sorts of rides at Disneyland Paris and the restraints, how easy they are to get in and out, so that you can get an idea of what it might be like for you if you're visiting Disneyland Paris as a plus size person. But I have to say, I've been super duper impressed. It is always slightly a worry when you do go to a theme park of, am I going to have to get on the ride and then they say I don't fit and I have to get off? But I've been super impressed at how accommodating Disneyland Paris is. In fact, there wasn't even a time where I was struggling and hoping if we just push harder the harness is going to go down. I've been super lucky. So let's do a rundown of the different rides you're going to encounter at Disneyland Paris and what they're like for sizing and for harnesses and things like that. Something that I would say is probably a bigger concern that I found at Disneyland Paris was more to do with the getting in and out of some of the rides. Some of the rides have a very deep drop to get into them, or the seats are very low, and that could be an issue if mobility is a bit difficult. One of the first rides that when I was on it I thought, this could be a bit troublesome, is Orbitron. Now this has little rockets. I would say I went in it on my own and it was fine. I think 2 adults, any size, regardless if you're plus size or not, would struggle to fit into these rockets. So if you're an adult with a child, that's probably fine. If you're 2 adults, it's going to be a tight squeeze regardless of your body shape. Something else to note about Orbitron is that it is quite deep to get down into, and it's one of those rides where you kind of put your legs out in front of you and you can put your bags in front, but it's kind of, you're sitting flat on the base of the rocket. And also something that is problematic is that when you first get in, it's slanted. So you're having to kind of maneuver yourself on a slant to kind of sit down on the floor. So it can be a bit problematic. As I said, for sizing wise, I fitted in with no problems whatsoever, but I did go in it on my own. I don't think I would have tried it with another person unless it was a child. Other rides that have quite low drops to get into are things like Pirates of the Caribbean and It's a Small World, where you're in a boat and you have to step down into it to get in. And then things like Autopia, you're in these cool little cars. They're very cool, like futuristic 50s style looking. But again, you have to get very low. It was one of those things where the seat was much lower than I was expecting. So I kind of got to the point where I thought I was going to sit down, and then I ended up like falling because it was much lower than I was anticipating. But fitting in wise, all of those rides are absolutely fine. There's no kind of restraints on sizing. Whatever size you are, you will be able to fit in those rides. It's just more of an issue with mobility, of getting up and down from very low seating. I would say the ride that is notoriously the most difficult for plus size people at Disneyland Paris is Crush's Coaster. Now, full disclosure, this is a ride I do not go on because of motion sickness, but I have previously gone on it in the past, and I was a similar size and I did get on absolutely fine. Crush's Coaster has a lap bar that comes down across your waist, and it does seem to be quite a tight fit, and it also fits quite snugly against the thighs, and this seems to be where the issue lies for plus size people going on Crush's Coaster. From what I've heard from other people, fitting in the seat is not the issue. It is just literally this issue of the harness fitting and going down so it clicks. I would say that if you manage to fit on Crush's coaster, you will have no problems on any other rides at Disneyland Paris, as Crush is the one that's notoriously the least accommodating for plus size people. Other roller coasters at Disneyland Paris may have overhead restraints. Rides such as Space Mountain, RC Racers and Indiana Jones, and this can be problematic for people with larger chests, men with broader chests, or people that are very tall because the harness might not come down, and this seems to be where the issue lies. Again, with these rides, I've personally not had any issues. I've been absolutely fine. There has been a time on RC Racer where the cast member has assisted me, and that's kind of because where I am very short, not got very long arms, and you have the harness that goes over your head, and then there's a little seat belt that goes in between your legs, and once the harness is down and you can't move your arms as much, I find it a real struggle to get the seat belt. So I have had cast members before hand that to me so I can plug it in, and I've also had them push down so that they get the click and I'm all insecure. The only ride that I know at Disneyland Paris that actually has a plus size seat is RC Racer. In the front row there is a seat that is slightly larger for people who are either plus size or taller, and what's really nice about this is the cast members do not make a big fuss. If they see someone who they think could benefit from using this seat, they will just direct them to that row. So it's not anything you need to worry about. You're not going to be singled out or be made an example of. They will very, very discreetly just say, please sit in the front row, and then it's all sorted and you have the better seat that is more accommodating for different body types. I would say the cast members are amazing. They are very, very delicate about things, and they will try to help you as much as possible with pushing on the restraints and stuff like that. And even if you are worried before going on the ride, would I fit or not, they would be able to give you all the answers to your questions. So definitely don't worry about speaking to the cast members. They are super friendly, super nice, and they'll be able to answer any questions you have. Other roller coasters at Disneyland Paris are things such as Big Thunder Mountain, and these types of rides have a lap bar. I've never had any problems again, and this lap bar seems very, very accommodating. So this seems like a ride that most people would be able to get on. The one thing I would say about Big Thunder Mountain is there is very little leg room, and I do find getting on and off a bit difficult just because it's trying to work out with your bag and your legs, and you're trying to get everything in and out. I think this is an issue with all adults though. I've travelled with people who are standard size, I've travelled with people who are tall, and everyone seems to have the same issue regardless of their body shape. It's just the fact that it's very narrow for anyone's legs. One thing I would note about Big Thunder Mountain is that the bar goes across 2 seats. So whoever you're sitting with, it will only come down as far as the largest person in your party. Some people therefore are kind of a bit uncomfortable if they travel with young children and small children on Big Thunder Mountain because the bar could be quite far away from them. One ride that can be a bit unaccommodating is the teacups, and that's mostly because the door that enters into the teacup is very, very small. To get in, you do have to kind of maneuver your body, and of course in the middle there is a big kind of circular steel wheel that you can turn to make your cup spin. This could be problematic depending on where you hold your weight, and this is something to be aware of if you are going on the teacups. Again, personally, I've always been able to fit. For me, it's more the door getting in and out, having to go sideways and manoeuvre. That's more of the issue I find with the teacups. Once I'm in, the wheel is far enough from me, it's not causing any issues, it's not touching me, I can't feel it, so it's very comfortable once I'm in there. It's just the little door that's a problem. If you're wanting to ride some of the classic dark rides such as Snow White, Pinocchio and Peter Pan, they have a bench seating and then a lap bar that comes towards you. Again, getting in and out can be a bit bothersome because there's not much leg room. This does seem to be a running theme, but again, that seems to impact all adults regardless of body shape. Because these rides have bench seating, it's very comfortable, and you can kind of decide if you want to sit with another person, or you could even ask if you just wanted to sit in your own in one of the rows, and the cast members are usually very accommodating for this. In Walt Disney Studios Park, you have a super fun spinning cars ride called Carsquattros Rally. Definitely mispronounced that. Definitely can't pronounce anything in French, so I do apologise. This ride is super fun. It has bench seating and seats in the front and the back, so there are 2 rows. Now, what I would say with this ride is that it's not really possible to fit 2 adults sat next to each other. When I've been on it with adults before, we've had one in the front and one in the back. You could possibly fit with a child, but it could be a tight squeeze. But what I would say is if you're going to ride this, definitely make sure you do 1 row, because for 2 adults, regardless of your body size, it's a very, very tight squeeze. This ride has a seat belt that goes across the whole of the bench. So if there are 2 people sat on the bench, they will go across both of you. And the first time I went on this ride, I sat in the back row and I could just do up the belt. I don't know if maybe it was adjustable and I needed to adjust it, but it was quite a tight fit and I could literally only just fit it. The second time I went on this ride, I sat in the front row and I had loads of room, so it was absolutely fine. So it might be worth noting, if you are plus size, maybe try and sit in the front row and it's a little bit more accommodating. If you're a thrill seeker and you love rides such as the Tower of Terror, you're in good luck because this ride has a seatbelt, but it is a stretchy seatbelt. So it's one that you pull out from the side and then you clip in, and it's very, very accommodating. Although there are not designated seats, as in the seats don't scoop up so you've got just your seat to sit in, it is more like bench seating. Of course, these seat belts do sit in a specific spot and it's not particularly wide. So if you do have wider hips, it may be a little uncomfortable on Tower of Terror. Toy Story Parachute Drop is one of my favourite rides at Disneyland Paris. It is so much fun and thankfully it is very accommodating. When you sit on this ride, they have 3 seats. They are little scoop seats, so you do have a little bit of a side to it, but again, I've always been really comfortable. I've not really been touching the sides, so I do think if you are more plus size than I am, it would not be a problem. Again, it has a stretchy seat belt, which is great because they're super accommodating, and you do have a little lap bar that comes down. Now this tends to sit quite far out. It's more of a thing for people to hold on to rather than a safety feature. It might be a safety feature. I'm sure it is a safety feature. Why would they have it otherwise? But it's not one that is going to be touching right up against you or pressing into you. It kind of sits out in front of you and that's what you hold on to. This bar seems very accommodating, and because it comes in front of you and it doesn't touch your body, I feel like if you were more plus size than me, you would still be able to happily fit this ride with no problems. Ratatouille the Adventure, you don't have armrests or things that keep you in your own specific seat. It is more like a little cup. If you are a bit larger than me, you may feel a bit uncomfortable if you are sat next to people you don't know because you might be touching them. But I think really this ride, again, quite accommodating. You're not going to have too much problems. If you want to go on the classic Dumbo ride, I would absolutely recommend getting your own elephant. I've been before with other adults and it's just absolutely not possible really to fit 2 adults in there, particularly if you're plus size people. Definitely get your own elephant, and then you can also get some really cute photos kind of like one behind each other. Definitely try that. But everyone can fit on this ride. It's very, very accommodating. There's a little step to get into the elephant itself, but then there's lots of leg room inside, loads of space to put your bags, and you'll be absolutely fine and comfortable on this ride. Casey Jr. is a kids roller coaster. I personally love it because I was not expecting it to go very fast. I literally thought it was a train, like the train you get to go around the park. I didn't know it was a roller coaster at all. So it was a great surprise. What's really cool is that it's designed like Casey Jr., the actual train. So some of them are cages, some of the cars are different shapes, and because of that they have different accessibility. Okay, full disclosure, my memory card was absolutely full, so if the shot has changed now, I very much apologise because I had to go and quickly go and change that. The one thing I would say about this ride is depending on which ride vehicle you go in, depends on the amount of leg room you get. I've been in some that have had loads of leg room, and because it is a lap bar, again, it's been a super comfortable ride, very accommodating. I've also been in some ride vehicles where it's very small leg room, and again, for any adult, this is a bit problematic. If this is something you're concerned about, when you get to the front, just ask the cast member to sit you in one of the rows with more leg room. Going on Prince Charming Carousel is such a great thing to do in Fantasyland because it's just so iconic and really reminiscent of when the parks would have first opened. It's just such a classic attraction, and it's also the ride that inspired Walt to create Disney, so it's a really nice way to kind of pay tribute to Walt by going on the carousel. As like a normal carousel, there are lots of different horses, and then there are also some stationary things that look like carriages that are on the carousel. The horses can be quite difficult to get on and off. I find as someone who is very short, it can be very difficult because even though there are a few steps to get onto the horse, if the horse you chose is one that has finished its last journey up high in the air, it's very difficult to get your leg high up. There are seat belts on the carousel that you clip around your waist. Now these are quite tight. I can just do this up. And as I said, I'm a size 20, but You do not actually need to use this. This is just something that is a feature for children. So I didn't realise this until after I'd been. So I didn't need to be worrying about trying to do it up. But this is just something, a feature for children. So as an adult, you don't need to use the seatbelt. If getting onto one of the horses that is very high up could be an issue for you with mobility, then you always have the option of going in one of the carriages. These are very easy to get in. They just have bench seating, and then you get to experience the carousel without having to get on and off the horse. If you did want to take a journey around the whole of the park, then the Disneyland Railway is a really nice way to experience this. It's also a good way to get from different lands because there are 4 stops around the parks. This is like a old-fashioned steam train, and it has bench seating in it. There are a few steps that you need to get into the carriage itself, but apart from that, it is very accommodating. Something it's good to talk about are the shows at Disneyland Paris. One show that I did find that the seats were particularly tight was for PhilharMagic. This show is really fun, it's 3D and it has special effects. The seats are like what you would find in a regular theatre, but because they have armrests that have special effects built into them, they can be a little bit tight, and because they are stationary and they can't move at all, this could be an issue if you are a bit more plus size than I am. Other shows such as Rhythm of the Pride Lands and Disney Junior Dream Factory have bench seating, so this is suitable for everyone, and they do have some seats that are on the ground floor level, so if you can't climb up any stairs, you can sit on those seats. If you go to see Mickey and the Magician, this is in a traditional theatre type setting where you get an individual seat. I found the seats comfortable to sit in, but it is worth noting that if a standard size seat is something that is a bit uncomfortable for you, this may be an issue at Mickey and the Magician. So now the thing that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, which is an unexpected barrier, is the fact that nearly all rides have turnstiles in the queue. I have no idea why they have this, there's no real rhyme or reason for it, but these are quite narrow. So for me to go through the turnstiles, I turn sideways and I can get through and it's absolutely fine, but these are quite restrictive. If this is something you're worried about, before entering the ride, you can explain to the cast member that the turnstiles could be an issue or you're concerned about it, and they should be able to let you through the accessibility queue. As I mentioned earlier as well, something that can be a bit of an issue if you are short like me and you have short arms are rides such as the Toy Story Parachute Drop and RC Racer that have the buckle that goes in between your legs. I have a real hard time reaching them, so sometimes the cast members may have to assist. It's also worth noting, if you go on those 2 rides and you're wearing a skirt or a dress, because these go between your legs, it can mean you're having to pull your skirt or dress up, and it's a lot of kerfuffle, it's a lot of hassle. I was on the parachute drop, I already had my skirt was pulled right up because the harness was between my legs, and then when we're going up and down there was all this wind, I was pretty sure I was going to be kicked out of Disneyland for flashing, so it is worth noting that if you are wearing dresses or skirts, on those 2 rides it can be a bit problematic. That really has nothing to do with being plus size at all, but it's worth noting just so you don't have some fashion faux pas like I did. Another thing that is important when you visit Disneyland Paris is merchandise, and for me particularly clothing. Now I'm really happy to report that I'm able to purchase clothing at Disneyland Paris and it fit. Now I do get the largest size, which typically is an XXL. As I'm a UK 20, that might give you an idea of what that's comparable to. I would say that women's fit clothing can be a bit tighter, so I don't always get that, but a lot of the t-shirts and sweatshirts are unisex, and I've even got items such as skirts, and they've all fitted me, so I've been really pleased that I have been able to fit. But I would say that if you are looking for sizes larger than a UK 20 or an XXL, that it can be problematic because that is where it tends to end. So that is a summary of what it is like to be plus size at Disneyland Paris. I've been so lucky that I've had no issues whatsoever, which is really, really great to know. Having seen other plus size people who are maybe taller than me, or they have a different body shape to me, or maybe they're a slightly larger dress size than me, they've also found Disneyland Paris to be very accommodating. There are a few rides that if you are slightly more plus size than me that could be problematic, such as Crush's Coaster, but generally Disneyland Paris is a very welcoming and accommodating park for plus size people. If you do have any concerns or worries ahead of getting on the ride, definitely speak to the cast members. They'll be there to assist you and answer any questions you have, and they are super helpful and friendly, so never fear about talking to them. Something else I thought was worth mentioning was the flight. I flew over with Easyjet and I was so impressed. When you are plus size and flying, it can be worrisome thinking about, will I need a seatbelt extender? Will I sit comfortably in the seat? And I was really impressed with all of this. I managed to sit in my seat and I fitted. I didn't even touch the sides of the seat. The seatbelt I was able to easily fit. In fact, I could tighten it and there was loads of leg room. So I was unbelievably impressed. This is probably one of the planes that was more accommodating. Each of the past 3 trips I've flown with Easyjet and every single time I've had the same experience. So I'd highly recommend, if you are going to fly, Easyjet seemed to be very accommodating and I was very, very comfortable during my flights. So that is everything you need to know about being plus size at Disneyland Paris. I hope this rundown has been helpful and given you some idea about the harness types, how easy it is to get in and out of the rides, and what kind of rides are suitable for plus size people, which tends to be most of them, which is very, very good news. If you do have any questions about being plus size at Disneyland Paris, make sure you put them in the comments down below and I will answer them as best as I can for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it has been helpful, and until next time, I hope you have a most magical day.